Welcome all. Welcome back to another United in Tech production. It is United in Tech, or UIT's podcast official number 2. Welcome you all again. Unfortunately, cut a long story short, there have been technical difficulties again, and as a result, our co-host Stewie D is yet to be available for one of our podcasts. Hopefully by number 3 or 4. We're crossing our fingers. Cross our fingers, everybody, please. And write in the comments below that you expect there to be a banter of sorts between two cohorts, lol, because we're hordes, two co-hosts. And in turn, podcast number 3 shall be much more successful for everybody pertaining to what topics are at hand. Well, we'll see once we get there. We have United in Tech podcast official number 2. In relation to podcast number 2, that's another thing. We'll get to that very, very shortly. Just on a side note, I haven't had a chance to do any Techness Corner. Techness Corner is my side channel on YouTube, linked in the description below. If you guys are interested in viewing any of the Techness Corner website, Techness Corner site material, then check that on out. But we've got a new shorts video unboxing what is essentially, guys, the unboxing official apparatus, should I say. And I'm very glad to bring this to you live. It is what you think it is. I know I can see some heads rolling right now. It's a Decepticon Megatron official Decepticon Megatron unboxing tool. Fits my hand snugly, as you can see, and she's got a little clip on there that you can clip that up to wherever you need to go. And there it is, our unboxing tool next to the Yeti mic, so that you guys can get a bit of a semblance of girth and whatnot. And that's hopefully going to be very, very quick and decisive in getting me into my unboxing videos very quickly. As a result, not stagnate too much. So let's pop that away for a special day, which is the unboxing of our next product that we shall either review and or do an overview over, that hasn't been unboxed yet. So yeah, guys, leading us into what is essentially United in Tech's podcast number 2, people. And you've got a little privy of the studio. It's the middle of the night. I'm trying to get this up and live for you all. It is approximately 3:25. I'm hoping to have this up at 4 a.m. Unfortunately, I am shooting live. Everything is unscripted and information is present that is present and newsworthy as of the day, which is the 27th, or should I say Sunday the 27th of March 2022, or will it be the 26th of March? It will be a Saturday for some or all you folk out there. And we try to go weekly with our podcasts, airing on the Saturday/Sunday, early morning Sunday, Australian Eastern Standard, so that the US crowd so that everyone can get a bit of a mix into what's going on at the right time, pertaining to PC tech specifically, and all tech surrounding that such. So leading us into what is today's topics. So without a moment ado, let us continue into United in Tech podcast number 2, UIT number 2, guys. It still doesn't ring, I don't know if we should say UIT or United in Tech, but United in Tech, and that's our logo there, unofficial. Over the course of the next 4 to 6 episodes, we may tweak some things for the short to medium to long term. Please, leave some comments in the comments below if you think it definitely should be the case. But let us continue on to Uniting Tech podcast number 2, guys. So unfortunately, Stewie D Industry PC Tech is not with us. He brings us a wealth of knowledge pertaining to industry PC related tech, as well as gaming related tech. Avid gamer for many, many years. And I mean that more so than your converged or conversive gamer that's come from console. He was there at the beginning. Borderline, okay? At the beginning where IBM Prince of Persia, he was, Wolfenstein 3D and whatnot, you know what I mean? Like, he was there, okay? He was playing in Counter-Strike when Counter-Strike was a hit game. Counter-Strike still is a hit game, so what am I talking about? But make sure you guys leave a comment in the comments below, getting Stewie D to get off his shallow high horse. I don't think that's the case, frankly. He's a very likable fella. I think it's honestly the fact that we got some massive technical issues, and I'm trying to sway that by hosting the stream on my end, and mitigating a lot of the work for Stewie in the beginning, because I'm pulling him in specifically for this. He's taking time out of his week. He works his ass off, people. And this is a bonus to have him as part of the show. So please, if you guys want to see him as part of it, leave a comment in the comment section. Stewie D, where are you? Is all we need, and it will get him front and center in the next episode, or podcast number 3, or cross our fingers by number 4. So let us lead into what is next on the agenda in podcast number 2, guys, and that is Elden Ring, of course. What else? What else to get your juices flowing, guys? Elden Ring, after all. That is one topic of today. Nvidia thing is another topic without elaboration. GPU prices, on the other hand, again, GPU prices will take front and center, or in this case, center. But realistically speaking, are they that important right now? Well, as long as they continue to drop, frankly. US lifts import tariffs on said country that shall name nameless up until the point of topic. And Intel ATX 3.0 PSU specs revealed. So if you're after a new PSU, guys, here's something worthwhile looking into before purchasing that PSU, or that power supply, should I say. So let us move into what is a little bit lighthearted and obviously PC tech related, which is massive gaming wise. Elden Ring, guys. And Elden Ring, as of the 16th of the 3rd of March, so 7 days now and counting, worldwide has sold 12 million copies, people. 12 million copies worldwide sold as of 7 days ago. Now, Elden Ring, if you have not heard, is a multi-platform, not MMO, I was going to say MMO, but it's a multi-platform RPG. And yeah, I have to be honest with you, I have not played a minute of this game, but I've seen about goddamn 4 to 6 hours footage of it already. Now, I am very intrigued as to the game itself, and credits be where credits lay. Our Elden Ring coverage is brought to you thanks to Ian Walker from the Kotaku Gaming website, and you can see the full review there. Links provided in our description below. So yeah, I'm going to have to take it by ear, and we're going to go take it through Mr. Ian Walker's comprehensive review on the topic, leading us into, I'll give you some extracts and excerpts of one, a man on horseback rears up a cliff. A giant golden tree far in the distance is what we can all see on the image here. And does that not look epic? But leading us into what essentially is, I'll get the Elden Ring official trailer, and I've got some untapped footage for you all after the fact that we'll listen to with the sound. But the Elden Ring trailer will accompany us while we go through the extracts of what I believe is a very descriptive review that sums up Elden Ring without playing an ounce of it, frankly, guys. So I say this compassionately and without an ounce of elitism in my heart. A work of art isn't always meant for everyone. Other critics have described Elden Ring as a slapstick sort of Arthurian legend meets Looney Tunes situation that births increasingly hilarious moments despite the game's serious trappings. And much like allowing your brain to take a breather while you laugh at Johnny Knoxville getting kicked in the nuts, giving yourself permission to adopt the right mindset is the first step to truly appreciating what Elden Ring offers. Accept that game won't always play fair. Accept that its huge input buffer will more than once make you take a swing, a healing potion when you really meant to do a dodge. Accept that you'll probably get your ass kicked the minute you step outside the starting area because you, wearing only a loincloth and wielding a small club, dared to take on the swole-mounted knight in the gloriously gleaming armor. Accept Elden Ring for what it is, for from what From Software set out to accomplish, and don't get hung up with what it's not. I promise that 90% of you will have a much better time with the game if you do. And for the other 10%, well, that's okay too. Elden Ring is a love letter that may as well be written in dead language for those unable to or unwilling to bend themselves to its will. While certainly not as inscrutable as King's Field, unforgiving as Dark Souls, or mechanically complex as Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, the latest From Software projects still ask players to put up with a lot of frustration. But if they do, they'll find in Elden Ring is a fitting culmination to director Hidetaka Miyazaki's decades of world building experience. The lengthy sabbatical in the lands between revealed to me a game that was as much in love for giving you something new and weird to see around every corner of its massive open world as it is with sound of its own voice. Seriously sentient iron balls, giant hand monsters, necrophiliac named Dung Eater. From Software needs to chill. Like most great works, Elden Ring is magnificently flawed, equal parts beautiful and ostentatious. In this age of cookie cutter, paint by numbers, triple A development, what more can you ask for than something wholly confident in its bullshit? ? Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm only 1/3 of the way through the game and would love to see at least one of its multiple endings sometime this year. So this is thanks to Ian Walker, and Ian Walker is from Kotaku Gaming, and links to the full article is provided in the description below. What we are going to do, guys, is watch the Elden Ring footage pertaining to something that you may not have seen, and I have yet to watch this as well, so this may be of interest to you all. So let's get cracking with this, shall we not?
Peggy 16.
Better turn up my own volume.
Make of thyselves that which ye desire, be it a lord, be it a god. But should ye fail to become aught at all, ye will be forsaken. amounting only to sacrifices.
Beautiful, beautiful
Thy
game.
kind are all of a piece.
The grass is unbelievable, I think.
By the flame of ambition. Champions, welcome. A celebration of war. Dragon Festival! I pray that the guidance of grace abandons you.
Why accept the burden of their grace, or be fooled by the dogmatic ramblings of the fingers? Rise with us, against the Erd tree.
Never met someone with a taste for brawn or contrast. We'd make good mates, I reckon.
I bid thee
It's all in
travel
game
the
footage.
path of the Lord. And once all is done, we shall see each other once more. Now, go forth. Become Elden Lord.
Obviously, Elden Ring was released on the 25th of February. So, as of the 16th. So, just to reiterate, I think the figure might be borderline coming on 20 million already, but through its trajectory. But 12 million copies sold as of the 16th or the 3rd of March is no mean feat for what is essentially the trajectory is on par with games like Call of Duty for all time sales in a period of time. And it's not even an FPS, guys. It's not even an online RPG. It's a role-playing RPG. It's a single player, for God's sake. So credit has to be where credit is due for a genre of this caliber to be making it as it is as such. But leading us into what I essentially wanted to discuss, and PC gaming being a slight bit of a mess. Now, I was hoping to discuss this with Stewie D, but Stewie D is unavailable, unfortunately, and will be with us in podcast either 3 or 4, crossing our fingers. Make sure you put out a shout out for Stewie D. Industry PC Tech official title shall be granted and provided by Stewie himself. I may be overzealous in that, because in a basic bio of himself, Industry PC Tech has been one of his reps per se, and I'm not going to elaborate any further because he's been up there and he's been down there, and it's all in relating to the IT industry per se. So and be that on a gaming level or be that on a professional level, guys. So when he speaks words, they make and they mean something as well. Okay, so to be brutally honest, because of time restraints and that, I might have to bring topics onto the table for discussion, but it doesn't mean Stewie can't at a moment's glance just be on the ball with everything because of his experience that he brings to the podcast. So shout outs to him, guys. Kudos, please. I appreciate it, because we need to get him here. I wanted to discuss the dismay of why PC gaming is a mess. Essentially launches and launches galore. You know, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing for PC tech? What do you guys think? Please, I'm curious to hear in your comments below. Sometimes such launches like Epic and the Epic Game Store They funneled a lot of the money they've received from Fortnite into indie games and upcoming games and whatnot. But as long as that's being done, I can't see launches as a bad thing. But unfortunately, I see launches as the middle ground, to you being able to get a game. And it may have seemed real nice and handy at the beginning, but when launchers command a set price to have their games featured on their launches, like Steam and whatnot, and exclusives exists and things like that, it becomes really tiresome. When all we needed back in the day, all we needed, guys, was our icons. And you know, we might have our icons set up. I've got a freshly installed version of Windows installed currently, and I'll show you guys my icons. Okay guys, I'll go view, show desktop icons. I've got Apex Legends there because it's part of the Origin store, but as you can see, I got Steam there, I got Cyberpunk 2077, but that all leans into your like, they're useless because my icons on my desktop, for example, which you guys can barely see, you can't have the game icons there. You have to leech into Steam, and then but it's an era thing. Get me, like, so now I've got 4 or 5 games currently. I'd have 4 or 5 different launches. You get my drift? And that's sort of not on the basic a very nice way to go about it, especially when ultimately these launches were meant to save us money and bring us a better product. They're ultimately, in some ways, driving the prices on a retail level up so that profit margins can be met on all levels, if the justifiability of more games being sold because of the launches being available was to not exist. A good game that on the back end can support itself, okay, for example, if a game can support itself to an nth degree, or get in on some place that can support it on the back end, then what that means, like a single player game, like how much back end does it actually require in this day and age realistically, then a single player game doesn't require a launcher in this day and age, and can create their own launcher very, very easily to mitigate the damage that will be caused by launchers already existing. Unfortunately, we've become accustomed to this. We should become unaccustomed to it again. I think it'd be for the good of PC gaming, because these juggernaut entities, like, not necessarily Origin being bad and all that, but these juggernaut entities that own massive amounts of video games, like look at what was it, not BioShock, but that game that was released through Origin and EA just the other year. What was it called again? I forget the title, but it got pushed out so fast that there wasn't any end game, and there was a moment had and moment loss, because people didn't get the luxury of experiencing the game for how the developers wanted you to experience it. And a lot of those developers got trolled and stuff, and it wasn't their fault. It was, you know, it was deadlines being put into place where the game should have been more polished before it was released. So cross our fingers for games and PC gaming moving to the future, because on another note, why PC games is a mess in my eyes is the requirements. Realistically, with new school and new gen consoles, be it, the question mark is, with multi-platform games, are PC games as relevant in this day and age? Because the requirements specifically to enter the PC gaming space have doubled, if not quadrupled, in value now for entry-level base PCs from yesteryear, and what they give you in comparison to console gaming is another story. So for exclusive esport games and that, yeah, you can still get in, but anything more, if you want to play any of those other games, you might as well go console, because on PC it's going to look like a dismal affair unless you spend $2k US, 2.5, 3k, 4K AUD, you know, for a PC. to get something sweet out of it, you know, frames wise, with the new school games going forward that we hope will be emerging, because we want innovation to continue. Okay, so innovation pertaining to not only PC tech but gaming wise, you know, Cyberpunk 2077 should be a standard. Okay, and the quicker it's standardized, the quicker, you know, tech will catch up to that, and mainstream tech will catch up to that, and the quicker tech will drop in prices subsequently. Okay, so that leads us into Nvidia thing, and GPU prices more so is what the topic where we should be bouncing to. But we got some important information pertaining to Nvidia themselves and DLSS per se, and the FSR debate, and XESS from Intel. And guys, they are going open source. Whoopee! Who couldn't see that one coming, with FSR 2.0 on the tables thanks to AMD now. So Nvidia thing is actually a thing, guys, because it's called Streamline, essentially. Nvidia Streamline. And Nvidia has introduced an open source framework to make it easier for developers to plug anyone's upscaling algorithm into the rendering pipelines of their games. Intel's on board. AMD's FSR 2.0 looks like a prime candidate too, none of which seems like something I would have expected to be discussing today, guys. Today. Streamline is an open source cross IHF solution that simplifies integration of the latest NVIDIA and other independent hardware vendors' super resolution technologies into applications and games. This framework allows developers to easily implement one single integration and enable multiple super resolution technologies and other graphics effects supported by the hardware vendor. So how Streamline works per se, and look, some of this is credited to Dave James, published 1 day ago on PC Gamer, the US edition, guys. But how Streamline works essentially is, historically Nvidia has not exactly been known as the open source champion. That's something that we have to consider, and we have to consider massively the fact that AMD's just come out with FSR 2.0, and it to be adopted takes a 2 to 3 day, from my understanding, layover, okay guys, of implementation into a game per se. And it's very comprehensive, where they could essentially, in a nutshell, ask Nvidia, had they had the market share, okay, of why not joining their plugin and enable them to be able to do this. But this is how Streamline works in a nutshell. Nvidia's got the market share. With Nvidia Streamline, however, developers no longer have to figure out a way to manually plumb every different upscaling SDK into the game. There has for combined benefits of shortening the amount of time it takes to add different solutions and providing more opportunities for both manufacturers and gamers to access those features. A lot of this is NVIDIA mumbo jumbo, though. You have to understand that. The open source nature of Streamline, now released in its entirety on GitHub, means that hardware manufacturers can create their own plugins for the framework. Intel has already made its own plugins for XESS, so games will be ready once the Arc Alchemist GPUs finally are. And that means that AMD can get in on the action as well, and more than likely only be SFR 2.0. The way NVIDIA's done this is SFR will not be capable of doing that, so older GPUs may not be capable of doing that, and they're being real, you know, but they're managing to do that, and I'll tell you why further down the track. At the moment, however, AMD's Fidelity FX Super Resolution FSR comes into play after the standard render pipeline, and so probably isn't a good fit to run with Streamline. But FSR 2.0 luckily is a different beast, now a temporal based version like DLSS, like I said the other week, and XESS, and will actually come into the graphics pipeline, which should also make it even easier to implement for developers. The open source nature of Streamline, now released in its entirety on GitHub, means that hardware manufacturers can create their own plugins for the framework. Intel has already made its own plugin for XeSS, so games will be ready once the Arc Alchemist GPUs finally are, and that means AMD can get in on the action as well. At the moment, however, AMD's Fidelity's FX Super Resolution FSR comes into play after the standard render pipeline, and so probably isn't a good fit to run with Streamline. But FSR 2.0 is a different beast, now temporal based version like DLSS and XeSS, and will actually come into the graphics pipeline, which should also make it even easier to implement for developers. Like I mentioned the previous week, it is what it is. Now, to be brutally honest, okay, image scaling, DLSS, FSR, ultra quality, 43, of course, image scaling through Nvidia is better than FSR, and that's FSR, not FSR 2.0, which Nvidia is coming out with. Nvidia's just announced this, FSR 2.0. Notice how there's no native FSR 2.0 image scaling comparisons here for Streamline and how it'll work, even though FSR won't be in the mix regarding this. Okay, these are just scaling technologies compared, and it mitigates the fact that AMD just come out with a killer bombshell, and Nvidia, what they've just done is gone, okay, so now what we had as closed source, essentially we've just made open source, so you guys can all jump in on the bandwagon. Now AMD has to go, okay, we're going to jump in on the bandwagon as well, so that they can maintain, and it looks like Nvidia provided you with this technology. Okay, Nvidia is not the prodigy here, the good guy, okay, and neither is AMD, frankly, but because they are companies, and I understand how they're positioning themselves, and this is what Nvidia is doing. I'm just here to make you aware that this is what's occurring as well. It's great that it's going to happen, okay. AMD doesn't necessarily have to follow suit, because their implementation and scaling of their Fidelity FX Super Resolution 2.0 is quite easy to do, but with a plugin essentially already made, it'd be ludicrous if they didn't, but they'd have to then give credit to Nvidia, wouldn't they? Okay, so that's where it may lay, or this lay, or that's where AMD might have a little bit of a loophole to provide games which are only Fidelity FX Super Resolution based, and that's where Nvidia will say, well, why don't you open source that? And it's like, well, sure, but if that's the case, we've done that because we're all doing the same thing, you prick. Why would you say that to us? You know what I mean? Like the big man, like the smaller brother saying to the big brother. So yeah, GPU prices, people. I have to keep it short and sweet. I'll get some. I'll really appreciate Stewie's comments on some of this stuff, but we're going to have to rest assured that he's going to be with us in the next episode or two. But GPU prices, they shall fall, and they shall fall aplenty. This is more good news, of course, but we can't forget the overall market remains well above where it should be. The price inflation is still considerable, and indeed still pretty outrageous, with some outlying models at least nothing like the worst success of the hugely stacked price increases we witnessed during 2021. And at least now, one AMD graphics card is actually well below MSRP. And guess which one? The 6500 XT. The RX 6500 XT isn't going to be a great choice for many gamers. It's not much of a compelling upgrade if you already have, say, a GTX 1060 or an RX 580. And that might be part of the reasoning why pricing is pitching down somewhat sharply, as there's decent availability and obviously not as much demand as with other cards. Don't get us wrong here. Remember, the 6500 XT is still a solid 1080p performer, and these are some current prices which are available in relative where prices have fallen accordingly. A bit excessive, some of these prices. If we go to the next slide, you've got that's like a 1660 Super at 559 Australian dollars. This 1799 from eBay, I believe, is a AMD 6800 XT. Otherwise, it could be a, yeah. So there's some interesting prices happening. Speaking of availability, stock levels are improving in the US and elsewhere. Hardware Unbox observes, and we've been hearing many more positive ramblings around GPU prices in recent times. Nvidia's price inflation still looks worse than AMD, but again, on that front, there's optimism regarding a recent rumor that suggests Team Green is passing on some cost saving to card makers, and consumers might soon feel the benefit of that, on top of other downward pricing forces that we're going to get into very shortly as well. Let's hope so, but overall the positive momentum continues to build, and Intel's entry into the market in Q2 will surely push up GPU stock levels considerably and shape the landscape into a more competitive place. Let's just hope there are no other stings in the tail with component shortages, which have long been predicted to get better in the GPU world and elsewhere in the second half of 2022, which again should help normalize pricing. Okay, guys, so here's a great example of a price drop. $21.99 is $16.59, say $540. RTX 3080 gaming OC 12GB variant in stock, available at suppliers everywhere else. Scorptech is the shop, and it's in stock Australian delivery wise. So it's just a gigabyte variant, but at that price it's until the 27th of March 2022, so you better be quick. So hopefully some hardware prices are decreasing, frankly, because I'll tell you why. There's another reason for it, and that's essentially the US lifts import tariffs. And where are they lifting import tariffs? Well, I shall tell you. The Office of the United States Trade Representative has reinstated 352 products into its exclusion list, which governs for Chinese imports subject to increased punitive tariffs as part of the US-China trade war. The revised listing now once again excludes printed circuit boards, PCBs, finally, from the added duties. PCBs are used to manufacture motherboards, GPUs, and a range of other electronic components that we are all hopefully very well aware of. The development means PCBs coming from China are now free from the 7.5% to 25% additional import duties levied at them, which went into effect in January 2021, when we saw those prices rise drastically pertaining to even GPUs, okay? Just remember that, okay? Because when the provisions excluding these products expired, this could in theory translate into lower prices for some of the best motherboards and graphics cards. Of course, that's the best case scenario that assumes companies will be passing these savings on to consumers, people. Graphics cards, however, another beast. Even as GPU prices keep steadily falling towards MSRP, the particular market was devastated by the demand shock and has been that way ever since the introduction of Nvidia's RTX 3000 series. While the falling prices indicate a gradual return to supply and stock normalcy, retailers have built up their supply on products that have been sold at a markup already. This could put a dent into the effect of the tariff exemptions. It shouldn't, okay? It shouldn't. I always mention the retailers. Could have an end user pricing, as retailers will be simultaneously trying to move graphics cards they acquired at high and low prices. Retailers are thus likely to increase their margins on more recent cheaper stocks as a way to compensate for the reduced margins on GPUs they previously bought at a significant markup, but can shift due to crashing consumer demand for graphics cards at inflated prices. The bottom line here then is that effects on graphics card pricing are harder to predict, unfortunately, but it's likely that the lower taxes won't translate into a corresponding price action anytime soon. Leading us into, guys, I wanted to show you guys another massive card. But for example, RTX 3090, that's dropped in Australia about $8,000, still over 3,000 Australian dollars, still over 3,000 Australian dollars. But unfortunately, yeah, it's some of those cards are on special. They say they've dropped them from 7,000 an odd amount, but yeah, that's something to look out for if you're in the market for a card that costs you the amount of a computer of yesteryear still. But look, on the other hand, we've got one other point to make, and that's coming back to it. Intel ATX 3.0 PSU specs announced, and power supply standards shall be changing subsequently, guys. So Intel has published the final ATX 3.0 power supply specification, and it's the biggest PSU spec change in almost 20 years, guys. PC hardware has changed a lot since then, particularly the power requirements of GPUs. ATX 3.0 PSUs will come to market throughout 2022. So if you're thinking about buying a new power supply anytime soon for any specific reason, you might want to hold off to around that area and probably pay the amount that you're paying for DDR5 RAM currently. The new standard formally introduces PCIe 5.0 graphics card support with a new 12-pin VH power connector that can deliver up to 600 watts. We've seen Nvidia release Founders Edition cards with 12-pin connectors, but they aren't the same as an official PCIe 5.0 connector, which includes 4 additional sideband signals. The new connector is set to debut with Nvidia RTX 4000 series and AMD RDNA 3 cards. Okay, the fact that the cards can receive up to 600 watts from a single connector doesn't bode well for future GPU power requirements, though. Unfortunately, it doesn't. I would have liked to have seen GPUs come down, but everyone's like more, and now you're going to get more plus more power at the same time, when this generation should have brought the power consumption of last generation down, and we should have had some really kick-ass fucking cards, okay? Coming back to 600 watts for a single connector doesn't bode well for future GPU power requirement. It adds weight to some rather silly power consumption rumors doing the rounds on the internet. Some cards may require 2 connectors, people. In addition to PCIe 5.0 support, there's the new ATX 12V 2.0 spec, which introduces some other features aimed at providing better reliability. It brings some welcome changes to low load efficiency, which is a weakness of even the most efficient of today's PSUs. Low load efficiency improvements are designed to help the PC industry meet ever stricter governmental energy regulations. Efficiency above 60% is required for 10 watt or 2% of maximum capacity, while above 70% is recommended. I beg your pardon. ATX 3.0 PSUs will introduce a second certification standard by Cybernetics, so another certification, extra money for people, alongside the existing 80 plus ratings. Cybernetics certifications aren't just for efficiency. There's also a noise level certification and a related chassis soundproofing certification that will definitely assist users that want a quiet build. And this means on top of that certification, any new players into the PSU market will be hard done by, and because they have to, for every unit they produce, not just one power supply, every single unit, every power spec, they have to get a certification for. They have to get 2 certifications for now, and that costs you a lot of money to set up. Even if you can go to exactly the same manufacturer as Corsair, the same manufacturer as Seasonic, and pick up those items and sell them off as your own branded items, you'll still need to get these certifications to do so. If you can trust the companies that don't have the certifications, by all means do. Unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of cannon fodder moving forward into the days where these companies can become established and have their own certifications, because they'll have extra money to do so. Some companies just don't agree with certification, full stop, and they'll tell you it's on par with, and you have to trust them for it because they don't believe in the certification mumbo jumbo. It's sort of like sometimes, like I don't want to use it exactly, but like getting like halal certified or something like that. It doesn't necessarily make it true halal just because you got the certification, okay? It's because you're paying money to a group to allow for it to be the case. You hope it's governed correctly, you hope so, but it doesn't always translate that way, okay? So in a nutshell, guys, that has been another United in Tech podcast number 2 production. We have concluded our topics of the day. I hope you guys got something out of this. Unfortunately, Stewie D is yet to be with us per se. He shall be in good order. So please, guys, please, a shout out to Mr. Stewie D, Industry PC Tech, title may change, to Game Guru and PC Genius. I know I'm talking him up. Understand he's just a human as well, so don't bash him if he's umming and butting as much as I am. We all have to get our place in the world, and the place for us should be in front of his camera, and hopefully with any technological interruptions that still plague us will be fixed over the next coming episodes. Stewie D shall make his big appearance. So my name is Seb Luka. You can check me out at the Techness Corner. Links provided to everything referred to in said articles, and our proceedings today as well were referred to. Otherwise, from you all at UIT headquarters, United in Tech, come join the community, leave your comments in the comment section below, and peace out, y'all. Bye.